Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for that beautiful bio. And welcome our panelists. Well, let's welcome them in the chat box, please. Let's welcome Mrs. Omoshola, Mrs. Ividakwo, and also Mrs. Oluwatosin, who are going to be on this panel session, including myself, and I'm going to be your moderator for this session. And we are excited to be here to take this conversation to the next level. Is anybody as excited as I am to get this conversation to the next level? All right, let me stop sharing my screen so that we can spotlight our panelists properly, right? Okay, so as we await all of those, yes, I do have our panelists here. And today we're talking about embracing your uniqueness in a world that wants you to fit in. I mean, Mr. Oluwatosin has done a lot of justice to that already. And I'm so sure that our panelists also bring in their own diverse perspective into this discussion. And we're going to all be rubbing minds together, just like we did yesterday. So you have all been introduced, and I will give you the floor to tell us, what does this topic mean to you? Embracing your uniqueness in a world that wants you to fit in. Can you talk to us more about that? And please feel free to unmute yourself, Mrs. Stephanie, and also Mrs. Omoshola. Just unmute yourself and just like answer the question as we did yesterday, so that I will not start calling Mrs. Oluwatosin. If you want to speak, just go on and speak to us about what does this remind you of when you hear that word, embracing yourself, your uniqueness in a world that wants you to fit in.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you well.
All right. In fact, I'm really so excited to be part of this inspiring community. And let me first express my heartfelt gratitude to the organizers of this remarkable program. I consider it to be a life-changing initiative that will leave a profound impact. And also, special appreciation goes to the founder of Windstar Growth Academy, Dr. Tolulope Olawole, for extending the invitation to join this extraordinary mind. You see, thank you so much for having me. Ms. Oluwatosin has done a lot of justice to being unapologetically you. Thank you so much for that insight. And I also listened to the panelists of yesterday, the one section, and the weak stars, they're already sounding like they're weak star mama. Yeah, talking about uh, embracing your uniqueness, right? Yeah, just like Mrs. Oluwatosin has said earlier on when she was doing her presentation, the fascinating thing about embracing your uniqueness is the fact that nobody has the same identity. Nobody has the same identical identity with you. So it's about finding your purpose. It's about discovering yourself, self-aware, and be compassionate enough to accept yourself with your flaws, with your shortcomings, and be uniquely you, be unapologetically you. There are always rooms to improve on your weaknesses or your shortcomings, and that is why we are building on who we are becoming. We will always be becoming.
Mm-hmm.
So, basically for me, you need to first of all discover yourself. You be self-aware, know your strengths, know your personal traits, know your weaknesses, and know, if you embrace yourself, it's gonna help you to navigate life confidently. And that is it for me. Thank you once again for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Omoshola, for that. Yes, so you heard her rightly. She says that it's all about embracing who you are, and we are forever becoming. We have not become. We are still on that journey of becoming. Even all our mommies on the call will tell us that we are still always becoming something. Stephanie, what does that sound like to you?
Yeah, sorry, I was finding it difficult to unmute myself. So thank you so much, Dr. T, for having me. Thank you. I think we are in the academies together. So thank you so much for having me. I think my video is off. Okay, it's part one. Okay, so embracing embracing your uniqueness, to me, it's just talking about focusing on our strength. And I want to thank Ms. Oluwatosin for that beautiful talk. In fact, I was just like, was she was just speaking everything that I had the intention of also like talking about. Anyway, so thank you, Ma, for that beautiful presentation. It was just very, very good. And I was just writing how things she was saying, and I was like, I mean, Mrs. Batose has literally just mentioned everything about what makes us unique. So yeah, it's focusing on our strengths, just like everyone had said, rather than dwelling on our weaknesses, like emphasizing our strengths and the values that that we bring, and then also celebrating small wins. Everybody is unique. You are unique. You are different in your own way. So, and I think Pastor Isaac mentioned it yesterday too, that you should, that he mentioned something about uniqueness, right? And then he said we should just, accept who you are. You are not like every other person. And then I would also say, you should also ensure you also say positive affirmations, and then you can also get these affirmations from the Bible. We are Christians, right? We are children of God. And then we can just take the cue. Like, in fact, I was so happy when Mrs. Oluwatosin was concluding, and then she said, "You are beautiful." That's Psalm 139, verse 14, right? And she asked us to like declare that. So we have to also, ensure you actually have these affirmations. You tell yourself, you wake up in the morning, you say, "I'm fearfully and wonderfully made." You're a child of so many things. You are made for more. And then you also patch, and she mentioned self-compassion. It is very important. Taking care of your physical, emotional, and mental well-being is very, very important for maintaining resilience, for you to build yourself. Until you become, right? I know we are still becoming, just like everyone had said. So, and then lastly, I surround yourself with positive people, positive influences. I'm proud of Maddox anywhere I go. That's part of why it's even in my bio. And it's amazing that we are on the panelists today, and we are all members of Maddox. So they are all my sisters. So you have positive people around you, such that when you are facing when you feel like, oh, you want to give up, you have someone you can just quickly reach out to. And this is all still in the face of embracing your uniqueness. Have very great support system. I think that's what it means to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that. Yeah, Madam Stephanie, she's just literally laid a lot in our front right now. And of course, I heard things about community. I heard things about, practicing self-compassion and every other thing. And I would say, because I'm also part of the panel, so I'm also supposed to answer these questions, I would say that one thing that I stood out for me, for what Omoshola and Stephanie spoke about, was self-discovery. When I think about that topic, of embracing your uniqueness, it comes to me that, how do you even know you are unique? We say it all the time. People say, "Oh, I'm unique, I'm wonderfully and fearfully made." Yes, it is a fact. But is it a fact that has become a truth? Is it something that you've come to accept, to say, "Okay, I know that I am fearfully and wonderfully made, and I'm actually aligning that truth to my life"? So when I think about that topic, I think a lot about self-discovery, that just as my co-panelists have said, that if you do not work on that part of self-discovery, if you've not gotten to that part, there is really no uniqueness to embrace. So each and every one of us, we have that responsibility to put ourselves, either our parents could have helped us on that journey. Even if they've not helped us on that journey, it is our responsibility. It is until we get to the point of taking personal responsibility for our lives, that's the only time that we can truly say that, all right, I have figured out what it means, what self-discovery is about, and I can walk in it. And no matter what the world tries to conform me into, because I have discovered myself, I'm never going to bend to whatever the world is pushing at me. So thank you for that. Ms. Oluwatosin, please, if you know you want to speak at any point, just unmute yourself and join in the discussion. Okay, so my next question, before I come to a very, very important question that is in the chat box, really big question. This question I have for us is that personality plays a big role in how we move through life. Ms. Oluwatosin has done justice to it, telling us about we are all different, right? When in your life did you actually realize that a personality type or your unique strengths were actually an advantage and not a flaw? What season in your life did you figure that out? And how did you learn to like leverage that uniqueness instead of hiding it? So you see your personality, you say, okay, now I know that this is to my advantage, it's not a flaw, and I'm going to leverage on it. I'm not going to let the world, tell me what I'm not. Over to your panelists.
Somebody going, me going first because we're just three.
Yeah, I can go
Okay.
first.
All right. I can go first too if you want me to go first.
I think
Okay.
I would say it's really very funny that anytime I tell people that while I was younger, I was always someone inside. I talk to people, I don't have friends, and I'm wondering, I mean, it was definitely was once like, and then I also was just in my life, I had to maybe build some or some like that. Then I'm always inside. I love books a lot. I just keep on reading. I read a lot of books. And then when I eventually got to a part, I think that was uni, I just changed from something that was just always to boy you have really friends to something that now had like of female. In fact, I don't know how I keep them. I don't know how I keep that community of friends. But then, and I realized that at time my personality was just and I realized that it was it became a strength for me. It was not really like people would just say, Stephanie, she does not just they will even ask my mom, what is wrong with your daughter? Why is she suicide? So my dad is just reading people, but I realized that so in my life, I like to learn some things. And I think it's through the reading of those books, I was able to develop some skills. I was able to develop some skills of how to communicate to people, how to, talk to people, and how to be a very great friend. Because I think I give myself that accolades, right? How to be a great friend, how to, and I was able to build that capacity. I was able to build that 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 particular has also helped me helped me admit and also like I've learned to harness communication skills, creativity, empathy, and I've been able to like connect with people and help them grow. Can you all hear me? Like I realize my network is- Can you hear me now, Dr. T?
It was breaking. So in between, we weren't hearing you well. So maybe if you want to speak, you can turn off your video so that maybe it's going to stabilize a bit.
Okay. So I think
All right. All right. Thank you, Doc. Thank
okay,
you.
so
Okay, keep going. Yeah, we
yeah.
can hear you now.
Oh,
Are you still speaking?
can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, we hear you.
Oh, awesome. So I was saying I was able to like at that point in my life, I needed to just like build up my skill. And then it has helped me now as a minister, as an educator, but I've learned how to harness my creativity, how to harness my communication skills to actually connect with people and to help them grow. And honestly, embracing those strengths, like my personality has actually given me confidence and purpose. Like it has helped me to know that, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So all those things that people were seeing as a flaw at some point have actually become something I'm actually seeing as a strength, something that's has actually become, something that has molded me into who I am right now. So yeah, so that's what I'm going to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stephanie, for sharing that beautiful story. And I love the way you ended it with everything that everyone thought was a flaw eventually became a strength. You realize you're able to leverage on all of those things. But of course, not just without you sitting and folding your hands, but you working on it, like you had to improve upon it. Thank you for sharing that. Omoshola, do you want to go next?
Yes, in fact, that question got me like thinking. Like I had to like rewind and Okay, I will begin by saying that every rose has its thorns, and life itself is full of ups and downs. So to everything in life there is advantages and disadvantages, and so are humans, because human beings were a tapestry of strengths and weaknesses. And I'll give you an insight about my personality before I go into the question fully. I'll simply describe myself as a go-getter, unwavering, and resilient. Intuitively, I've always known this while I was growing up, but I might not have the capacity enough to like put it the way I just stated it now, as briefly and straight to the point. So, but as a go-getter, in these are my biggest strengths, and in this my biggest strength lies my very weakness, like my flaws. Like, what do I mean? If I get my eyes fixated on a particular thing, that this is what I want to achieve, I then up consequences and I go for it, making me to be very rigid and not flexible enough. But motherhood has taught me to be flexible. I think I'm more better now. I'm doing very much better at the moment. It's just like I leave some things unattended to, making them to be like, they are lagging behind. So these things they are also necessary, but the fact that they are not as ambiguous as what I am chasing, is like a flaw for me. So knowing that this is my weakness, when it comes to marriage, I know that I needed a partner that will complement me in that aspect. Now, coming to the question, when the events that actually brought this enduring confidence, I mean this unwavering conviction that this personality, that this biggest strength of mine is not a flaw, it's just like an added advantage. Happened when I was in uni, during the admission process. Before I say this, let me congratulate everybody that they are the initial course, they got admitted for their initial course in school. If you are part of those people, congratulations. Because then I put in for a particular course, and we were told that there is no more space for that course. And the only department that had space for me at that moment was French department. Bearing in mind that I do not have a prior um, knowledge about French in my primary and in my secondary, you see how amazing that was. So, my mom, I grew up by blessed memory. She was a single mother, and all she was after was just like, I need my children to get education. That is why I appreciate what Dr. T is doing, self-discovery and all of that. It's not just academic. So I accepted, with the conviction that whatever, when you get to 200 level, you have a change of course. And in most cases, the probability of you successfully changing your course is very low. The percentage was very low then. I don't know about now. So that was why I got admitted into French department to study French language and literature. I mean, amazing, right? So, my first lecture in class, the lecturer began, and I was just mesmerized by, the whole idea of not being able to understand what was being taught. It just started like, oh, bonjour class, aujourd'hui, nous allons parler sur l'outil. I was just like, God, is this what I'm going to use the 4 years of my life learning? So, but there was this particular lady in that department. She was very eloquent. Her French language, her spoken French was top notch. And, I was just fascinated by the way she was able to like communicate with the lecturers. And I was just like, oh, this is amazing. I think I can give it a try. So I made up my mind in that very moment that let me give it a try. So, the stipend from home, I use it to get a personal tutor for myself, and I invested in some books, French language dictionnaire, La de conjugué, and all of that. And by the special grace of God, I came out with good grades, to the extent that when we went to Benin Republic to do this inter-uni debate, I represented my uni, and I came back with, I had, fourth, fourth position, let me put it that way. And despite being over a decade that I studied this language, I can still say that up to this very moment, I can give myself, let's say, 60% of speaking this French language. That's the power of the mind. And that was the very moment I knew that if I set my mind to do something, I would definitely achieve it. And this has been my history. This has been the trajectory of my life over the years. It has just been working for me. And I know it is not by my power as well, but I give I give all glory to God. So that was the moment I discovered that this is not a flaw for me. This personality of being unwavering, being resilient, and being a go-getter is just an advantage, and I can fit in into anywhere, just like that.
Oh my
Thank you.
goodness. I love that story. And I know that even if Miss Akinfolari also has to speak, your stories are kind of like, a bit identical in the sense that she talked about how she started off with computer science and then she discovered that that was not what she wanted to do. And also like Steph also said something, Weak Stars, I hope you people are learning one or two things, like sometimes our journey in life is not a straight road. There might be turns and curves and detours, but eventually you will get to the point where you realize that, okay, this is it. But everything, as we said yesterday, everything that we pass through in life, God never wastes an experience. And that's really, really, that's really, really exciting to just hear what you just shared with us. You set your mind to it and you did 4 years of another language. I don't know what else can be as brutal. I've been learning French for only God knows since when. And whenever this lady speaks French to me, I'm like, okay, just for you to know how much this has also, and I remember the day you also like shared with me that you had a patient at your place of work and nobody could speak to the person. I mean, this is outside of Nigeria, and she just started speaking French to the person, and the patient was like, oh, and the patient, countenance just changed, and she was so happy that finally someone gets me. Would she have known that course, even though right now she's on the path of, like psychology and everything, would she have ever known at that point in time that this French was going to be useful in the future? She would not have known. So when we pass through things in life, the most important question we should keep asking ourselves is that, yes, this is my personality, but it should never box me into a corner. I mean, if I have to also share for myself, like there are so many moments, I mean, growing up also, I was really, really, really introverted. And there were so many things. I just like, as you say, as you know, Miss Onwatosi happens to be my big sister. And she can talk and gist and do everything, So I'm always very, very comfortable being in a shadow, just don't ask me any question. Let me just stay right where I am. But, over time, and as I began to also like take my work with God seriously and develop in my faith, I began to realize that God also gave me gifts. And like myself and my sister are two different people, same with all the other siblings that I have. But one main thing I always keep telling myself is that I grew up in a family that we were allowed to express ourselves. And that's, that's the next question that I want to project to us. The question that Mr. Mike put in the chat box. How can we as African parents help our children on this path of discovery? I grew up in a family where you were allowed to project yourself. You were allowed to be yourself. You are not allowed to be conformed into the image of another child, So every child had their own uniqueness, and I felt comfortable in my skin, but I just did not know what my skin was. Even though I was comfortable, it was okay to be you. But I had to now start growing, but I realized that there were things I love to do. So the things, never take for granted the things you love to do. As a child, I remember then my dad would always make us read newspapers and he would make us summarize newspapers. I took that responsibility with so much joy, like carrying that newspaper, and it will be like, oh, so when I come back, I want to see your one-page report, and I will sit with it and I will summarize that newspaper and I will present to my dad and say, this is what I took from Punch newspaper and everything. But And then as I began to, even as a teenager, I still began to understand that, oh, I love to read. I love to read books, but I just did not have access to the right kind. And of course, like my dad had like a library of books, like memoirs of Obasanjo's, all those people's books that, history books and everything. But they were not the kind of books I really wanted to read. But sometimes I just find myself going there, opening them and reading. And it's not coincidence that in this journey of my life, I eventually had to get to the point where I had to have my own library. I discovered the power that books held. I discovered that I love to just do this. Like, I mean, if there's one weakness that I know I have is I cannot say no to a book. It's so hard to say no to a book, but that was because I eventually had to understand what my skin was. So I would say that for me, it's about like getting to that point where you realize that, all right, this thing is not a flaw. Like, as soon as you accept your uniqueness, you can now begin to express it, but you first have to accept it. And remember, we talked about the first thing being self-discovery. Mr. Moshola talked about herself being a go-getter, even though that was not a word she would have used a couple of years ago. But now she understands that whenever she sets her mind to something, she's able to, she's able to. Yeah, thank you. She's able to eventually get it done. Okay, so I'm going to ask us another question, which is right in the chat box. And this question is the one that was asked by Mr. Mike. And he says that for many of us, it's only God that helped us and is still helping us to find ourselves. What can parents do better, especially in Africa, to help children discover this uniqueness at an earlier age for ease in life? Over to the panel. What can you, or right now, of course, all of us on this panel, we are parents. So tell us practical things you are doing to help your children to discover their uniqueness, earlier, so that they don't have to wait until they are our age to start figuring out, okay, this is who I am and this is what I love to do. So Mrs. Oluwatosin, are you there? Do you want to go first or let other panelists go?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you. So it's just been really, interesting to hear, the discourse and everyone speaks, Stephanie and yourself, and it's just interesting to hear. And my sister in French, I tried that with Duolingo for maybe 1 or 2 months, and I tell you not, I've forgotten what I learned. So maybe that is probably going to encourage me to pick something up again. And like Dr. T has said as well, parents, we do have a lot on our hands now. Yes, I recall, our dad used to let us read newspapers and summarize. And when you're traveling, even you have to bring back the notes of all the states that you passed through and what were the trade
landmarks,
some of the trade landmarks or things like that there. So as parents, I think knowledge, they say is power. We need to, where we are lacking in knowledge, we need to find the knowledge, okay? And I think that can help us to be more receptive to the uniqueness of our children. Gone are the days where parents will say, oh, you have to be a lawyer, you have to be an accountant, you have to be a doctor. I mean, the world has moved. The world is moving. You have to be an engineer. There were just those fixed this is the pathway that you need to follow, else there's no security. The world is really changing fast, so I think it comes from knowledge. Recall I said I did computer science for 2 years. I had to go back to start psychology, started from 100 level. One of the things that helped my parents to be receptive to that was I kind of had to also find that knowledge for them and open their eyes. Of course, it was a new thing to them several years ago. I mean, 20 years ago, I'm talking about now. Psychology. Who knew about psychology? What do you want to use psychology to do in Nigeria? Like, what's psychology? They probably even heard about psychology from my mouth for the very first time. Even myself, it was not until I got into that space, university, that I realized there's something called psychology. It just was uncommon. So first I had to build up my knowledge, my knowledge wealth, and also kind of help my parents to see that. So as parents, and your children are growing now, you begin to pick up on their interests, okay? You can begin to see what your children are more interested in than others. They may be more interested or be more receptive to certain activities than others, so it's left to you as parents to now also begin to kind of protect them that way and help them nurture those interests. You never can tell. There could be a talent there. So we need to be more nurturing, we need to be more receptive, we need to be more understanding, and we need to also humble ourselves to learn, really. So when knowledge is lacking, invest in knowledge and know more. So if you don't know something about, if you don't know enough about a certain topic or course or interest or talent or gift or whatnot, and you can see your child picking up on those activities, your child may not want to go to school. It could just be that they want to go to school of football or whatever, and they want to be a footballer, and that would not just pay the bills, but it would also help them to live a life of purpose, or it will help them to be more fulfilling in life. So the world has moved on. So technology now, things are really changing and evolving, and even as parents, as African parents, or even as children as well, we kind of need to evolve and constantly always ask God for guidance. Hope that helps.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yes, thank you. I think I recall, like my sister as well, and my two sisters that talked about the mind. There's that book, The Battlefield of the Mind. So first, that mind, our mind is a battlefield. Any war or any battle that is won in the mind, it's a done deal. So when that battle comes in your mind, the moment you set your mind to it and you've won the battle, if the battle has been won in the mind, then you just realize that everything is easy peasy. And the world is kind of at your foot. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Oluwatosin, for that knowledge. What you are lacking in knowledge, seek that knowledge, humble yourself enough to learn. I think here I will also add to it that you cannot give what you don't have. You understand? Like, even for us as parents, yes, for those who are not yet parents, the best gift you can give to yourself is to invest in your growth, is to invest in your own personal growth. If you invest in your personal growth, it's going to be easy for you to be able to also help your children down the line. But if as a parent, all you do, let me never start mentioning some of those things I always talk about. If all you do, if all you read, if all your children see you do are things that are not showing that you're investing in your personal growth, there is no help you are rendering to them. You cannot give what you don't have. We pour from the place of feeling. It is when you are full that you can actually give out to other people. So I would say that wherever we are in our lives, maybe we are old or we are young, even for those who are older, even for those who are grandparents, you can still end up becoming, helping your grandchildren, even being the one who will hold the hands of your children to instill discipline and values in your grandchildren. But the truth is that you can never give what you don't have. So equip yourself with that knowledge, equip yourself for growth. However, whatever growth means to you, however you need to seek it, positive growth now, not just any form of growth that does not add value to you. Surround yourself with value-adding people. I remember now, Stephanie said something about like all of us here, we belong to a community. This community was bettered over 10 years ago. 10 years ago, we were single sisters that were just serving the Lord in our own small corner in the church. And from there, we grew to become a force to reckon with. We began to hold each other's hands. We began to sharpen one another because one person is not a repository of all that knowledge. We all have something to bring to the table. When you realize that you have something to bring to the table, you're also eager to receive what another person brings to the table so that you can have a full course meal. So when you learn to equip yourself, to pursue that growth, and you put yourself in a community that is passionate about growth, is going to be easy. I'm telling you, because the days you are down, you have somebody to hold you up and tell you that, it for the journey ahead is far. So that's what I would like to add, and I'll leave the floor for Stephanie and Omoshola to add theirs as well.
Okay, so yeah, so I would thank you so much, Dr. T and Sister Tosin. So I would also like to add that First Corinthians 12:6 says that there are different gifts, but the same Spirit distributes them. There are different kinds of ways, but the same Lord. And there are different types of working, but in them and everyone, it is the same God at work. So so I would like to tell parents or aspiring parents that number one, no two child is the same. I think we need to establish that. So and then you would have to put self-confidence in your children. So one thing I keep telling Tehila, my daughter, is I know she loves if you teach her something, she's so quick to assimilate some words. I mean, she's so quick to assimilate it. So but when she's saying it to is lose self-confidence. What I tell her is that, oh, you see the altar to preach. You see your mom climb the altar to preach. You can do it. You can also stand and, hold the mic, and you can do it. And after saying this a couple of times, you see that when you ask her to say some things again, she's able to do it better than the way she does it before. Now, the same thing with my other daughter, Mabel. Mabel had difficulty in pronouncing letter S. For a very long time, we heard stuff like, oh, what's going on? Mabel cannot pronounce S. I mean, Taylor was already talking at 2 years old. Why is Mabel having difficulty? And then, we keep on telling her, Mabel, you can do it. Say S, but she will not say it. And then we'll all laugh about it. Though we're a little bit disturbed, but we'll all laugh about it. Surprisingly, Mabel got home one day. I think this was like 2 months ago. Mabel got home one day and she just tapped me. Mommy, I was like, yes. She said, I can now say S. And she said the S. And all of us were just jumping in the house and we were overjoyed. And I'll be like, oh, I'll get you ice cream. And then we got ice cream because yes. And oh, and say yes. My mommy is happy I can say yes. So when you find something like that in your children, you don't sort of don't magnify it too much so that and then try to make them feel down and feel like they are not. I mean, it sort of reduce their confidence. So you build their confidence, even if she can't say yes. I mean, when she's talking, you understand what she's saying. Allow her to express herself. So as parents, we should allow our children express themselves because no two child is the same. And any gifts, just like Sister Tosin had mentioned, knowledge is power. And just like Dr. T has mentioned, what you don't have, you cannot give. So you need to also learn all these things. Read book on parenting. I mean, it's not too late to start reading books on parenting. Before I got married, I read books about marriage. While I was at my childbirth experience was very great because Dr. T can finish you with, he will give you the books you need to read, right? So at every phase, so even including parenting, there are books for parenting that you could just pick up and read just to help yourself. And we even have something we do. I'm so loud about Maddox because Maddox is one of the community that has also shaped my life and everything. So we have Maddox Kids Club, and here we actually, teach our kids the word of God, and we allow them to express that and one of the discussed was last month or this month rather is parenting, right? So if you have all these things, there's no how you would be lacking in taking in being a good parent to your child and helping them discover who they are. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Stephanie, for that. So you editor from my mouth, very valid reasons. Omosola, you have the floor.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Stephanie. And and also Mrs. Oluwatosin. I think you've been able to nail this anyways. But one thing I would like to add is that when it comes to parenting, just like in education, we have 3 domains of education. We have the affective domain, we have the psychomotor, and we have the what is it called? The other one, cognitive. So, the parental style, the African parental style focuses solely on the cognitive aspects of education, which I think most of the time it affects us. And people from from African clan, we tend to struggle with other domains, like the psychomotor. Many of us that are from Africa, we are not good with hearts. We are not good with some other psychomotor skills, and I think this is basically because as parents, what we just like when I was growing up, my mom was just pleased to see me reading. Just, oh yeah, go and read your books, go and read your books. But there is more to developing a child than just reading. There is a lot of things. If you compare the education style in developing country and a developed country, you will realize that the focus more in a developed country, they focus more on their psychomotor skills and their affective domain. Like when you focus on a child affective domain, that's when you will discover if this child is empathetic enough. Maybe this child will be good being a therapist or being a psychologist, just like Mrs. Oluwatosi. I mean, I even want to be a psychologist. Maybe I'll come and meet you after this after this session so that you can help me to become. So that's it basically, and I
That's
think
great.
we should be flexible enough, not just go and read your book, go and read your books. We should try other aspects, swimming, these are things they can go. Before you know it, you will notice that they are picking a lot of interest, even the one that is how they discover themselves. Because if you don't try out things, you don't try art, painting, going out, you don't know whether they love animals, if you don't expose them to a variety of things, they cannot discover themselves. It's not possible. They'll be so, stereotyped. It's just like a stereotype. African parenting is so stereotyped that go to church, go to school, read your book, eat your food. We need to explore. We need to make them, explore a lot of varieties of things. I think focusing solely on cognitive domain aspects of education is not the main thing. We should also explore the affective and the psychomotor skills. Thank you.
Absolutely well said. Absolutely well said. The chat box is buzzing because what you said also somebody typed it just before, just after you said it. So yes, we agree with you. Like, I mean, today my kids, I was trying to do the video of them. They were fighting for the puzzle, and they were just like doing it together because, and this was something that I took from my parents. My dad would always like, buy us puzzles, do all this painting, and these things can be very low budget. The money you used to do Ashwebi, the money you use to do kiniko, invest it in your children's growth. Buy resources that will help them, that will expand their mind. Give them some of these things. Let them paint, let them draw, let them color. Me personally, anyways, let's not even go there. I can use my last money to buy books and not just books, like things that can really help their creativity, and sit with them and not just hand it over to them and say go and do it, but sitting with them and letting them do it. And so these are things that we want to begin to, incorporate. So we hope we've been able to answer your question. And yes, we are coming just around the time that we should be rounding up right now. And one very last question I have, which anyone can answer here, is that, even on this part of embracing your uniqueness, we know that for some people, they also like experience something that they experience moments. We experience moments where we wish we were more or were someone else. So how have you ever struggled, for anyone who has ever struggled, one of the partners that struggled with maybe like imposter syndrome or self-doubt? And I'm saying this because we have young people in the house who sometimes are not so sure. Like it's like, they're like, today I'm up. It seems like I know what I'm doing, but tomorrow maybe I talk to someone or I meet with someone and it just feels like they just deflated all of my balloon. What are practical steps or practical strategies that you can use to overcome imposter syndrome or self-doubt or self-limitation that will not allow you to embrace yourself and will not allow you to begin to fit into what the world wants you to be, instead of what God has called you into. So anyone wants to jump on that, and this will be our last question, so please just let's yeah, okay, Moshara.
Okay.
Yes, definitely.
So yeah, so well, I don't think I've ever struggled with imposter syndrome before, but maybe I've had a little bit of self-doubt here and there. And then I think what I did is I tried to, like, just like I said, remind myself of who I am. So if that's why you have to know your identity, know who you are. And then so if self-doubt is coming here, it's coming there, remind yourself, have people you can actually talk to, right? Refrain from negative self-talk, like talk to people. Most of the time I call Dr. T, like just to try and hear some things from her, right? I call some of my other friends too. So if you have a good community, you can also, call people so that they can even remind you of who you are sometimes if you've actually forgotten, right? And then to also overcome this feeling, I think for imposter syndrome, right? You can focus on your strengths, your accomplishments and the value that you bring to others. Just look at look at the positive things, like reflect more on the positive things, like self-reflection on the positive things, right? And focus on positive affirmations, just like I mentioned earlier. Practice self-care, self-compassion, and mindfulness. Manage your thoughts and your emotions. Like don't don't believe like, oh, I'm not qualified enough. But yeah, there are times that those kind of things will like set in, but you try to take it up immediately. Like just get your mind off that thought and just start focusing on things, on the positive things you've done, on the positive. You don't focus on the negative. And then, just like I said, surround yourself with supportive people that would remind you in case you've forgotten that this is who you are. Also, draw strength from the word of God. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Yes, mashallah, that was really, yeah, very, very, very loaded. Very loaded. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Tolulope. Okay, you talk about if you're talking about self-doubt and imposter syndrome. Sorry, I just stepped out a little, right?
Yes, we're talking about it. Like, has it ever happened to you, and what are practical strategies that you use to overcome that?
Okay. Okay, let me just begin to say that, the modern society that we live in is such that if you are not well grounded, you are going to, it can intimidate you. I want us to know that we live in a world experiencing a rising tide of cynicism and fear mongering. And you have to really be, fully grounded in knowing yourself, being self-aware. So now, before I answer the question, let me quickly identify the differences between the self-doubt and imposter syndrome, because I actually took my time to like self-doubt. So I realized that self-doubt and imposter syndrome, they are intrinsically intertwined, even though they are not exactly the same, but they both stems from lack of confidence. So the self-doubt is about when you lack confidence in your ability. It's internal and it's the continuous feeling in you being insecure about your abilities. But the imposter syndrome is when you doubt you doubt you feel like you are not undeserving of success, despite evidence of achievement. So both of them are, they are kind of interconnected. But for me, I would say that I've never struggled with self-doubt and imposter syndrome, judging by what I just explained. But one thing that looks more like it is nervousness. I can be nervous, nervousness, self-doubt, imposter syndrome, they are intrinsically intertwined because they all have an element of fear. But one thing about nervousness is that I can be nervous about a presentation, I can be nervous about an exam, I can be nervous, when you begin to get the sweaty palms, your heart begins to race, you begin to have this butterfly in your stomach, and it is temporary, it's fleeting. Nervousness is fleeting. It's just a physical response to a specific situation, and it's not long lasting. Unlike self-doubt. Self-doubt, you continuously doubt your overall ability. That is it. And one thing I think that helped me navigate through the nervousness was just the self-identity, like I just talked about, and courage. Because the courage to be vulnerable is not about winning or losing. It's about putting yourself out there without minding or being able to predict the outcome or control the outcome of that situation. That is courage. So the fact that you want to bring about courage, the fact that you want to be courageous shows that there's an underlying factor, which is fear, nervousness, fear, self-doubt, fear, imposter syndrome, fear. So you just have to be courageous. And because of our time, I would like to end this by talking to us about a quote from I think Tina Lee Ford, when she said that when you know yourself, you are empowered. And when you accept yourself, you are invincible. Knowing yourself is talking about being self-aware. Like you have a deep understanding of your abilities, of your worth, of your values. And it is this understanding that brings the clarity that will make you make informed decision and navigate life confidently. And self-acceptance, like when you accept yourself, you become invincible. That is when you become like, you develop a thick skin towards external criticism. You don't depend on people for external validation. So that is just it. When you know yourself, you are empowered. When you accept yourself, you become invincible. So I think that should resonate more.
Wow, 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 wow. I'm all full of smiles and I'm like, this is light. This is so powerful. Thank you so much for sharing. I mean, I believe that we have all gained one or two things, you know. I mean, and as we were just like talking, just for me to just round up this session, as we were talking, one thing that came to my mind is that I believe that different personalities struggle differently with certain things. Some personality types are more fearful, while some personality types they tend not to struggle with it with any form of fear, but they may struggle with some, because every personality has its strengths and its weaknesses. I, as a person, I definitely have struggled with self-doubt and imposter syndrome. I have struggled with it. I think, if I remember clearly, the imposter syndrome probably came when I was just like trying to know who I was. Like, I wasn't just sure. Like, it felt like I was trying to fit into a mold that was not me. And then of course, like, being in a space where everyone was trying to push me to become something else, kind of just like, broke that was the straw that broke the camel's back. And I had to go back to the drawing, but it's okay. Wait a minute. Wait, exactly what is going on here? And I hear what everybody says here about like finding the right people to talk to, journaling through it, just bringing out those thoughts. I do not like those thoughts to stay in my head. I always like to put them down somewhere and come back to it so that I can mirror them. I can put them with what does God say about me, and then what exactly is this thing saying? Like, comparing those two things, looking inward. I think Mr. Duatosin talked about it, like looking inward, to really don't just put in your head and just accept whatever anybody throws at you. So for you, you might not struggle with self-doubt. And I like all the definition that Ms. Omoshola shared with us. She shared, about like the imposter syndrome. It is different from you being nervous and you being anxious. I mean, which happens to practically everybody. And when you practice over time, the nervousness and the anxiety tends to disappear. That's really, really different. But when you constantly do not even trust yourself, and I want to say that it begins from our relationship with God. When we know that what this, as in this thing that I'm about to do, I heard clearly. It's not somebody that came to tell me that do this, do that, do this, do that. Self-doubt to be minimized. So I love the quote that you just helped us. Please type it in the chat box. That quote is really, really powerful. I heard something about accepting yourself, you become invincible. And then when you, what did you call it, Amoshala?
When you're empowered, you become
Empowered.
Yeah.
When you're empowered, you become what?
When you know yourself, you are empowered.
Okay.
When you accept yourself, you become invincible.
That's such a brilliant way to close this session. And I really want to thank everybody for being here. Ms. Oluwatosin, I don't know if you wanted to say anything else before I just hand over to our wonderful moderators so that we can end this session. But this truly has been an enlightening session. Thank you so much. Oluwatosin? Yeah, okay, hands are up. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mrs. Oluwatosin, for your time. Thank you, Mrs. Omoshola Omoba, for your time. Thank you, Mrs. Stephanie Nibidapo, for your time, and Oluwatosin Akifolari, for your time. Thank you for shining your light through this session. And I believe that we've all taken one or two things away. And it's our prayer that these things will stay and they will find a good place to bring forth fruit in our lives in Jesus' name. Over to you, Emanuela.